Hey, I wanted to run by you my qualitative rubric for the text that we're going to be reading in my reading class.
I would love to help out with that. What text are you reading?
We're reading Leaping Lizards.
I love Leaping Lizards.
I love Leaping Lizards too. That's why we're reading it.
All right.
And so, it's a scientific text. And I was looking at the purpose, the text structure, language features, and the knowledge demands just to make sure that it worked in line with my reader and task in the standard.
Okay.
So we're looking at standard 1.2. And for the purpose, I thought that was a simple text because if you look at the title and the section headings, it pretty much tells you what the purposes are. What do you think?
I have to agree with you on that. I think that in the levels of purpose category, it's the purpose is explicitly stated, so
Right.
It would fit into the simple text category.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Okay. For text structure, I also thought that fell into the simple text category. If you look at the organization of the main ideas and the details, they're very clearly stated, especially because we have those bolded section headings. If you look at the bolded words, those are right there for the students.
Yeah, I'm also noticing with those bolded words that the definition is
right there.
explicitly stated
Yeah.
right after each bolded term.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so even though there's more domain-specific words, the kids really shouldn't have a hard time with it just because it's like comma,
Right.
definition.
And that structure will help them.
Right.
So I agree.
That
And
it's
then-
simple.
That it's simple.
Okay.
And then under use of graphics, I see there are 2 photographs,
Yes.
but they're not really necessary to understand the text. If we took those pictures out of there, we still have enough information in the text to understand what an emerald tree boa is and a blue-tongued skink. So they're not necessary, but they're nice.
They are nice.
So I agree with simple text there.
Okay. So for language features, for conventionality and vocabulary, I actually thought it was more somewhat complex.
Okay.
And I thought that because the language, it is explicit, it is easy to understand. I didn't see a whole lot of language that was multiple meaning or figurative, really.
But there are a few, so then I understand where that bumps it up to somewhat complex. So I see some figurative language, such as churning its legs like a windmill, and these animals are a window into the past. So you could have some valuable discussion about that with students.
Those are good examples, and you know what? That would actually be really helpful for the ELL kids, I think, as well.
To have some conversation.
Yeah, to talk about that. I agree. Okay. And then for vocabulary, again, the domain-specific terms, they're there, but they're clearly defined.
Right.
So they are domain-specific, which I think bumped up the complexity, but I think what's keeping it in somewhat is, again, the definition.
Agreed.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the last section, knowledge demands, I thought that the subject matter knowledge and the intertextuality were more somewhat complex. Because it's science, it does require some discipline-specific content knowledge or some background knowledge, but I didn't think that you needed to have a lot of that background knowledge to be able to understand the text.
I agree with you on that. I think that somebody could still handle this text without having a lot of background knowledge about reptiles, although there are a few things like reference to the coral snake, and you kind of having to know that the coral snake is poisonous in order to fully understand that, and having some knowledge of life science. So,
okay.
Yeah. So then, in a situation where we see that 2 categories show this as simple text and then the other 2 show it as somewhat complex text, when we're looking at the overall complexity here, how would you determine that?
I would determine that as overall more somewhat complex I want to make sure that I'm teaching to, the highest complexity that we have available. But please keep in mind that when we're looking at that complexity triangle, even though this text is more somewhat complex, because we're working with the standards, looking at the reader and task is going to bump up the complexity of everything.
Absolutely.
So
look at all 3 levels of that triangle.
Yeah, looking at all 3 levels of that. So thank you for your help.
You're welcome. I'm glad to discuss this with you.
Yeah.